Kyle Henderson here of BamaInsider.com, along with Tony Sakalis, still grinding away after Alabama's big 24-7 victory over number 3 Florida State. Tony, I mean, this game, did it live up to the hype? I mean,
I kind of it lived up to the hype I thought it was going to have. I think it had a little bit of everything you would expect in an opener. It was a little bit sloppy. You had defensive plays and blocks in the special teams and turnovers. That's what made the difference. That's what we said was going to make the difference, and that's what happened,
You have a story right now running on BamaInsider.com. It's about Minkah Fitzpatrick, and you talked to me about that was his blocked field goal right before halftime, that was the real turning point of this game. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's actually funny. Jalen Hurts called the block before it happened. He pulled Minkah Fitzpatrick to the sideline and said, "Hey, we're going to get a block here." Minkah said that he noticed on the extra point that a way that Florida State was blocking, that he thought he was going to have a hole, so he bursted that hole. He stumbled a little bit, but he got the block and was able to preserve a 10-7 lead at the half, and that really spurred Alabama going forward, I think. And then you saw the block that Damian Harris had on a punt later on in the third quarter, and those two plays really resulted in Alabama kind of finally getting points and being able to pull away in the game.
Deondre Francois, the Florida State's quarterback, I mean, in the beginning of the game, he was pretty much slicing Alabama's defensive secondary up. What type of adjustments did you see that were made from Alabama tonight to really shut down a very good quarterback?
I think they probably just looked at things at the half and were able to make those adjustments, to see what they were doing wrong, to capitalize on those mistakes. You also saw a switch from Trayvon Diggs to Levi Wallace. It seemed like Levi did a little bit better job in covering and kind of not letting his receiver open. You saw Trayvon kind of look like he blew a coverage early on that resulted in a big play for Florida State. So maybe Alabama makes a switch in the cornerback and goes with Levi Wallace in the next game. It would be interesting to see what they do going forward. But that paired with what we said, the momentum of those two blocks, I think was key.
Alabama moves to 1-0 on the season after beating number 3 Florida State tonight in the Chick-fil-A Kickoff Classic from Atlanta, Georgia. We're coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia, breaking down the game, giving you something to listen to as you drive back to Tuscaloosa or wherever you're from. And, there's a lot to talk about. And actually, we want to play Nick Saban's press conference right now. He spoke to the media after the game. Here's Nick Saban addressing the media.
Well, this was obviously a great team win for us. We have a tremendous amount of respect for Florida State's program, their coach, Jimbo, and their players. They got a great defensive team. And it took everything that we had in all facets of the game, the way we played defense, the turnovers that we got, the difference in special teams in terms of a blocked field goal, a blocked punt, as well as a turnover on a kickoff return that gave great field position. I think the field position was controlled a lot by special teams in the game, which was very good. Obviously, some of the areas that we probably weren't as happy with is consistency on offense. Didn't make a lot of explosive plays, had some opportunities, whether it was a lack of protection. Quarterback didn't have an opportunity to do what he needed to do, but we didn't have any turnovers. We didn't have any penalties. We got to do a better job of executing on a more consistent basis, but very, very proud of our players to come and first game of the season. You could always pick out a few things that were a little ugly, but I'm really proud of the way they competed. They played really hard in the game. It was a tough physical game, and hopefully we'll focus on improving and do the things that we need from here on out to try to get better as a team. We certainly know where we're at right now.
Thanks, Coach. All right, Rachel.
Coach, can you just talk about the process in the offseason and what you guys do as a team to capitalize on your opponent's mistakes? Because that seems to be characteristic for you guys. And especially now in the first game, where you're trying to work out kinks, you're trying to figure out things, and again, it was on display.
Well, they didn't do a whole lot of stuff that they haven't done in the past. So I think our coaches did a really good job of preparing our team to take advantage of some situations in the kicking game. The block punt was, good scheme based on their protection and how they protect. Should have scooped it and scored it instead of falling on it, but sometimes freshmen are freshmen. But we continue to try to look for ways to help our players be successful in all facets of the game, and we're going to continue to do that. And I think they believe in it, buy into it, or committed to it, and practice it so that we can make plays in the game, and it always reinforces their efforts when they do.
Okay, right here in the second row.
What's the status of Rashaan Evans and also Terrell Lewis?
Rashaan Evans has a groin. They'll have to check it out. He couldn't play in the second half. Terrell Lewis has an elbow injury. His status is very questionable. Christian Miller has a bicep injury, very questionable. And Anthony Jennings has a sprained ankle and could not play in the second half. So we had 4 linebackers, 3 outside backers, and an inside backer that didn't play much in the second half.
All right here in the middle.
Hey, Coach. If you could comment on Damien Harris and his play tonight.
I thought Damien did an outstanding job. He's practiced really well, had a good camp. The combination of he and Bo, maybe we'll get Jacobs back, Najee Harris. I think all those guys can contribute at that position. But Damien had a really good night tonight, made some big runs for us.
All right. Over here on the far left, Coach.
Was the plan going in to play both Trayvon and Levi?
I'm sorry, I can't hear
Speak
you.
up, please.
I said, was the plan going in to play both Trayvon and Levi at corner? What did you see from Levi in particular?
Those 2 guys have been competing at that position all fall camp. We busted a couple coverages. We were really lucky early in the game. We cut people loose 2 or 3 times, not just Trayvon. We just made some mental errors. And Levi's got a lot of experience. He's been in the system for a long time and played very well when he had the opportunity to play. Very smart player.
Okay, right here in the second row.
Coach, I know you haven't seen the tape yet, but how would you evaluate Jalen tonight?
Well, I thought Jalen did a good job. He did what we asked him to do. I think a lot of the things that could have been really good plays for Jalen didn't turn out so well because we didn't protect very well. Now, he would tell you that sometimes he's responsible for that because he could redirect the protection. But there were other times when we made mental errors up front and didn't block them. And we had people open but couldn't get him the ball. So the whole deal on offense, we have to do a better job of executing, especially when it comes to the passing game. They're a pretty good front. We could complain about running the ball better, but we probably ran it good enough if we could have had the kind of balance that we wanted in the game and been able to protect so that we could make some plays and make some throws down the field. But I thought Jalen did a good job in the game.
All right, front row on the left right here.
Coach, what did you tell them at halftime, and what was the biggest adjustment you felt like was made in the second half?
Well, look, we make a lot of adjustments based on what the other team's doing, but mostly what we go over is the mistakes that we made. And I didn't feel like we executed very well in the first half. We made a lot of mental errors on fundamental things, and I challenged the players to execute better in the second half, which I think we did. And I also told them that, this was going to be a 60-minute game. It was going to be a tough game, and everybody's going to have to check their whole card to see if they had the kind of will to hang in there, because it was a physical game. We had a lot of guys banged up at halftime, and we had some other guys step up and do a good job for us. So I was really proud of the will to win, the will to hang in there, the perseverance that the players showed, especially in the second half.
All right, time for a couple more. Let's go right here, third row on the left.
Good evening, Coach. You held Florida State to 40 yards rushing, even after replacing 6 starters on defense. Was that something that you expected out of your defense? And can you speak on the play of your linebackers?
Well, we had a tremendous respect for Florida State's offense. The balance that they usually create, running the ball and passing the ball and making explosive plays. I think the combination of them only making one explosive play in the game and their inability to consistently run the ball was probably something that was a real benefit to us. Early in the game, They were moving the ball against us because they were running it 3, 4, 5 yards. We were getting in 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2. Our plan was to try to pressure the quarterback. Could never do it in those situations. So we started creating more negative circumstances on 1st and 2nd down, which put us in a better position on 3rd down. So when we got into that rhythm, I think we played a little better on defense, but I was very pleased with the way we stopped the run.
All right. All right, back here in the back, all the way in the back, Coach.
Coach, at the end of the day, it's a week 1 win, but did the game itself feel bigger as far as the atmosphere goes?
Oh, it was a great atmosphere. I mean, I think the Chick-fil-A people do a marvelous job here. The city of Atlanta is very, the hospitality that they afford us is really appreciated. And we love playing over here. Our players love playing over here. I think this Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a fantastic venue to play in. It was a great experience for our players to have the opportunity to play here, and we played a really good team. So a lot of good things, but it's one game. We have a long season. We're going to have to get other players ready to compete at a high level that don't have as much experience. If we're going to continue to improve as a team, and that's the focus that we have right now, is what's ahead, not what's behind.
That was Nick Saban talking about tonight's 24-7 victory over Florida State. Alabama will now prepare for Fresno State, but before we dive into that, and we really want to recap this game, dive into it, because it was really the biggest game of this week 1 matchup in college football, and Alabama's defense really continued to hold the rope. I think a lot of question marks surround this defense considering the players that they lost. But Tony, from your assessment tonight, this defense still very capable of being one of the best in the country, obviously?
I think definitely. I mean, you got to consider they shut down a number 3 Florida State team that could move the ball, that showed that they could move the ball early in the first half, and it really showed the resolve of this defense. They lost a few players, but they were still able to bounce back and kind of limit Florida State and really frustrate Florida State's offense in the second half. I mean, I think this defense is only going to grow, and we're going to see another great defense coming out of Alabama. I think, Minkah Fitzpatrick said that the defense kind of established its identity in this game, and I think that's only going to grow going forward. I think, you're going to see a little bit more maturity from some of the new players on the defense, and as that experience grows, I think you're going to see big things this year.
Sean Dion Hamilton had a big night tonight. Coming off a knee injury, and people were excited to see what he was going to bring to the table. Sean Dion Hamilton impress you?
Yeah. I mean, coming off that injury that he actually had in Atlanta, not in this stadium, of course, but, he was great. He led the team with 8 tackles. He had a big sack on DeAndre Francois in the first quarter when they went for it on 4th down. That really set the tone for Alabama's defense and kind of said that, it's going to be hard to move the ball against us. So, really positive performance from him as far as Alabama's concerned, and he's another player that they're going to have to rally behind, especially as an experienced player. As this defense matures, he's going to be one of the people that they turn to kind of offer that guidance, that leadership, that steadiness.
There was a couple plays tonight where Terrell Lewis just looked incredible. I mean, were there any other players from the defensive side that really stood out to you? I mean, it looked like Sean Dion Hamilton, Minkah Fitzpatrick kind of did their thing, but who else really jumped out tonight?
I was going to mention Minkah Fitzpatrick. Some of the players, they did struggle, like you said, but for the most part, everyone was pretty solid. I think you pretty much hit on the head with with Minkah, with Terrell Hall, or actually Terrell Lewis, my bad, and Sean Dion Hamilton. They looked really good. You're going to start to see some of those other players really grow. I liked what we saw from Dylan Moses in the special teams. I know it's not on defense, but that's a kid that's going to factor into this game. Mack Wilson, that's another one that comes to mind as well. He had an interception in this game. He was playing a little bit of that middle linebacker role a lot, actually. So, they've got some players that they can really work with.
Tonight, Alabama's defense holds Florida State's offense to, looking at the stats right here, to 250 yards. Alabama actually only had 269 yards of total offense. DeAndre Francois, the quarterback for Florida State, 19 of 33 passing, 2 interceptions, 210 total yards, 1 touchdown, sacked 3 times. Leading rusher for Florida State was Cam Akers, 10 attempts for 36 yards. Receiving, Keith Gavin, 8 receptions, 61 yards. For Alabama, the leading rusher was Damian Harris, who had a big night. 9 attempts for 73 yards, 1 touchdown. Jalen Hurts, second on the team in rushing, 15 attempts, 66 yards. Bo Scarborough. Did I say it? Am I getting it right?
It's Scarborough.
Scarborough.
Kyle's getting there, guys.
I'm getting there. 15 rushes for 40 yards. Longest of 8 yards. Najee Harris, 3 attempts for 5 yards. Passing wise tonight, Jalen Hurts, 10 of 18 for 96 yards and 1 touchdown, longest of 53. Remember that bomb he threw, which was beautiful, by the way.
Perfect inline pass. I mean, like, that's exactly what Alabama fans were asking for.
Stride.
Yeah, like, Alabama fans were asking for that pass, and Hurts delivered it. He didn't do everything during this game, and I'm sure that there's going to be some negative Nancys that are going to, really tear apart everything Alabama did. He was going against a really good secondary, and he didn't make any mistakes, and he did prove that he can hit those those downfield passes. Yes, there's some things that he has to improve on in his game, of course. Alabama's going to need more 96 yards from his quarterback, but there were signs.
But the thing is with Jalen is he rises up. He's so poised. He does what he's supposed to do. I mean, do people probably want to see more production as we saw from DeAndre Francois? Probably, but that's not necessarily Jalen's game. He's certainly capable of leading the Alabama offense, and he does what he's supposed to do. Tonight, he ran for 66 yards, threw for 96 yards, 1 touchdown. He comes out victorious over a very good Florida State team. Hit Calvin Ridley in stride. But this is my question about Alabama's offense. Hold on. This is my question. Where are the other receivers at?
And what kind of time did Jalen Hurts have, too? I think that he was moving around a lot. He was running for his life a lot.
That's something that Nick Saban said. So, but before we dive into that, Calvin Ridley, 7 receptions, 82 yards, and then there's no other receiver on the stat chart that caught a pass. I mean, there's a running back, Damian Harris, 1 reception, 11 yards, and Bo caught 1. I mean, no other receiver. Now, okay, so
Henry Ruggs was targeted twice.
He was targeted. I felt that he could have caught that pass.
Oh, yeah, I think he probably could have. And that would have been a great play. Then Jalen's numbers look a little bit better. But that would have been a tough catch, man. That's a freshman.
I like that they went. I went with it.
That would have been tough.
To that corner. I mean,
I don't know.
If it hits your hands, you should catch it. I mean, that's what they say.
It would have been a tough catch. Yeah. And we're gonna give him the freshman.
So what problems did you see from the offensive line? I mean, someone said on the message board that Matt Womack is gonna get Jalen killed. Someone said that. Do you agree with that?
It didn't look good at first. It didn't look good either.
But Florida State's defensive line is nasty.
Right. Some of I will say that some of that pressure was coming from the right side, and there was a few times where Womack got beat and Jalen paid a price for it. But it's a work in progress too. I mean, the good thing for Alabama is they've got pretty much 3. I don't want to say cupcake games because we're not allowed to say that, but you got Fresno State, Colorado State, and Vanderbilt.
You have 3 games where you could figure things out.
Yeah, really do. I mean, you don't want to
really figure things out before you hit your midseason stride. I mean, anything could happen, of course, but I think these next couple games you can really figure the offensive line out. You can see what's going on. So I think we're gonna see Saban continue to really work to solidify the tiny holes that there could be on the offensive front. But I think overall they did a good job. Jalen, I think that he used his escapability when he needed to, and he made throws, and he was overall productive in my opinion. It was a game of defense, really, and Alabama's defense rose to the occasion, came up big, and really stole the show in the second half. And I was impressed with the special teams play overall. I mean, on many fronts. I mean,
the non-kicking part of it.
Yeah, I mean, because coming into this, we talked about the kicking woes, and besides Papanasso's, he missed that first field goal attempt, and then he missed another one later on in the game. But he was good from 35 yards out in the first quarter.
He made the easy ones. I think they're going to need him to hit those 40-yarders.
In the third quarter, he had a 25-yarder, and then in the fourth quarter, he had a 33-yarder. So Papanas is what he finished, 3 for 5 tonight?
Yeah, I mean, he hit the ones that you have to hit. But in a close game, in an SEC game, Alabama's going to have to find someone that can hit those 40-yarders. I mean, a 40-yarder is not really unreasonable, and he doesn't have to hit those all the time, but if Alabama's going to consistently miss 40 and above, then that's going to be a problem moving forward. I mean, they're going to eventually have to hit. I mean, that's if you get to the 25-yard line, So you would like to have range probably within 45 to 40 yards. You should be able to make those kicks. They're hard, but they should be on the range of what you ideally want to make. So. Work in progress on that point, but every other part of you had one bad punt from J.K. Scott, but every other part of the special teams.
That was a weird punt. It was 9 yards.
Yeah, it was a shank punt, And
then Florida State's punter came, 12-yard punt.
Yeah, so, it kind of helped balance it out.
That was weird. Nick Saban now 11-0 against former assistant coaches.
It's what he does.
It's what he does, yeah. And that's what he does in Atlanta, too. They have tremendous success. Winning tonight by a good margin. The line on this game was, it opened at 3 and then went to 4 or 5, and then it was 7. So Alabama comes out strong, now 1-0, and they will take on Fresno State. You're listening to the BamaInsider.com podcast, the recap show. Thank you for listening to the BamaInsider.com podcast. Signing off from Atlanta, Georgia. This is Kyle Henderson. Until next time, my friends, catch you soon.